Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Hangover. I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Oh, what's going on?
Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover.
Welcome.
What? Huh?
Hello.
Hello. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I am DJ Ross, and welcome. I don't know. Welcome to Zombie
Each week on Video Game Hangover, can't even get through the intro. We talked about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we're playing Monster Hunter Rise and Outriders.
Outriders.
Right. I think it's called Outriders. Yep.
Welcome to Video Game Hangover.
Would you like to start over?
Yes. Please insert coin to continue.
Hello, DJ. How's things? How's life on the left coast?
The left coast. It's great.
Yeah.
We're still here. We're still indoors.
A beautiful sunshiny day.
Yeah, and it was like 80 degrees this weekend. It was horrible.
Ugh.
It's too soon. Too soon.
It was like 19 last night in Pennsylvania, so we're complete other end of the spectrum.
I'll take it.
Oh yeah, I prefer it, absolutely. I'm not ready to give up hoodies. Have I talked about that on the show? I feel like that's a line I've used before.
I think you have.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking it's time to switch from my regular hoodie to my light hoodie, and I don't like it.
It's like Mr. Rogers getting ready at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. Well, you don't do that before every show. I always
cardigan off, cardigan on. Yeah.
Put on a separate pair of shoes. That was the thing that always fascinated me. He had the indoor shoes.
Yep. My grandma had a house coat. That was a thing. You had a house coat.
House coat. Okay.
Yep.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Yep. These fashion things just fall by the wayside. It's all joggers and hoodies from now on.
Yeah. I mean, that is just the world for the last year or so.
Yeah. That's
actually,
fine.
I wonder what they're up to in other countries. I wonder if the just sweatpants is an international standard.
I don't know. I have not done the research on this.
I'd be curious to see what is everybody's quarantine fashion from around the world.
Yeah.
What am I missing out on?
Burkas.
Burkas? I don't know. That sounds very warm.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It's flowy though, right? It's got some. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, on some level, maybe I just want to put on a big sack whenever I go outside. Not really think about, I don't know what I'm thinking about normally.
Yeah.
Certainly would make
outside.
things easier.
Yeah.
Just
Anyway.
thinking the fact that I'm outside. Yeah, probably.
So I'm going to pivot quickly to a completely unrelated topic, and my brain is whirring trying to think of what the segue would be, but I don't have one, but it's a thing I want to talk about.
Okay. Is it Mario?
It's not. It's not Mario adjacent. It's not Animal Crossing adjacent. It is Nintendo related, though.
Okay.
My Switch Lite, I just sent back to Nintendo to be repaired for the third time.
No.
Yep.
That's terrible because of the Joy-Con thing?
For the Joy-Con thing, yeah. At some point, after they fix it, and I'm air quote making fix around the word fix, yeah.
After they changed the Scotch tape that they put on the last time.
Right, yes. After they wave a magic wand over it, and then put it back in the box and ship it back to me. It doesn't work again. The left stick will not move. The stick moves, but it doesn't correspond.
It just moves whenever it feels like,
Yeah, to an action on the screen. So yeah, it's not sort of Joy-Con drift in the sense that I think most of us would sort of recognize what that looks like. It's just there's a direction. The Joy-Con doesn't work, doesn't do a thing.
Oh.
Yeah. So I send it back, and they send it back to me, and it's good for a couple of days, and then not anymore.
Well, I hope they're not charging you every time.
No, and in fact, it hit its 1-year warranty in February, but every time I send it back, they extend the warranty by 90 days.
Okay.
I think 100 days, actually, which I'll take that. So yeah, they have covered the cost of shipping it back and forth to them now 3 times. And they're always super pleasant about it when I call and say, okay, guys, I need you to get it together. I need a Switch Lite that actually functions. And they apologize profusely and, tell me to put it in a box and send it back and we'll fix it for you. And this time I was like, please just don't fix it. Just send me a new one because I don't want to keep doing this.
Don't send me the one that keeps breaking.
Right. And they're like, well, I can't promise that, but we'll put a note in it for the tech. And I'm like, well, I'm going to put a note in it for the tech. So I wrapped it in a note from me, handwritten, Dear Tech, please do not send this thing back to me. I don't want it anymore. Send me a new one. Send me a refurbished one, but do not, whatever you do, send this one back to me.
Right. Yeah, this one's had its chance.
Correct. It has. This is the third time I'm done. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I will update. What's the thing Rachel Maddow says? Watch this space. Because I will share my update when I get it back, and we'll see what happens.
I'm just imagining somebody hunched over like a workbench that Nintendo's like refurbishment center or whatever, and he gets your Switch Lite in, and it's like, well, what do I do with this one? Do I fix it? And then he just glances over at this stack of brand new Switch Lites that it's like, maybe I'll just put one of these in the box instead.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just put two in there because he's really, he's stressing it. He said, please. Yeah.
Oh man, that's terrible though.
Yeah. I'm super salty about it. I mean, my day one Switch, which a lot of people had issues with. You had issues with, right? You had Joy-Con problems from day one?
Yeah. It had the reception thing, but they fixed that.
Yeah. Did they?
Oh, I haven't had that problem since, although I also don't really use the Joy-Cons much.
Okay. I know a lot of people continue to experience Joy-Con drift with the big, the big daddy Switch. I think maybe the Switch Lite issues are not getting all the press that they deserve because I have had nothing but headaches with my Switch Lite.
Well, I know that I've heard people having that issue because it's not like the Joy-Cons where you can just snap them off and send those in. You have to send in the whole thing. And then you have a Switch for like 2 weeks or however long it takes. Mm-hmm. And it's not good.
No, not happy about it. So, I flash back to the days of the Xbox 360 where I had to send my 360 back to well, not to Nintendo. That would be a mistake.
It's like put a Switch Lite in the box for him.
Dear Reggie, please fix this for me. No, send my 360 back to Microsoft. It had to be 4 times, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were hardcore about it. They would send you remember the coffin? The 360 shaped box that had the little foam pads to hold it in place. And yeah, so they had a whole special shipping thing back when you got the red light of death on the 360 so that you could get it repaired. And
I never actually got the coffin because by the time I got a 360, like the red ring thing was well known. So I just got whatever replacement plan, I think from Best Buy or wherever, because I was like, this is going to break. So let me just spend $20 or whatever.
Right.
As insurance. And then sure enough it did. So I just took it back to the store, and I think about this often. As I was taking it into the store, just carrying it under my arm, there were like people just hanging out outside the store for whatever reason. And I could hear one of them was like just talking to his friend, like, well, that guy got the red ring. I was like, yep, that's why I'm here. Like everybody knows what this is for.
Is this the red ring line? Do I get in this line or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember bringing mine back in the coffin to the UPS store to ship from there. And the guy behind the counter, like, ho, that's like the 4th one today I've seen.
Yeah.
So,
yes. Just put on the desk. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, my little town in upstate New York was just hemorrhaging red light of death 360s.
Ugh. I still have that replacement 360. I'm worried that, one day I may want to play like Halo 2 or whatever. And it will just catch on fire as soon as I turn it on.
That's our dedicated Rock Band machine. So we still have it hooked up in our little extra bedroom in the house. And we don't play it a ton because, Rock Band doesn't have the draw that it used to. But, likewise, every time we do play it, I'm like, this could be the last time.
Yep. Better play all those, your favorite songs when you have the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, but if the 360 died, I could just play my Switch Lite. No, wait, I can't.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe I get a new one back.
That's
I put a
terrible.
little mark on it. I took a Sharpie and I marked the back of it.
It's like just double checking.
Just so I could, because, you could put any gray Switch Lite in a box and I would,
Right.
not be able to tell whether or not it's mine. So I made sure I put a little notch on it so I could tell when it came back to me.
I got Batman to irradiate my Switch so I can detect it when they send it back.
I go into detective mode, it'll glow.
Yeah. I heard that the PS5 controllers are having the same thing happen to them with the analog sticks. And there was a whole article about why this keeps happening to things. And I'm just like, oh, but that's a bummer because that thing is brand new. And I'm a huge fan of the PlayStation 4 controller. I was kind of thinking like, well, I don't have a PS5, but I could probably get the controller and play Final Fantasy XIV with it and see if that works, because people seem to like that controller. But not if it's not if I'm just gonna have to replace it every 3 months.
Yeah,
that's an expensive controller.
It is a very expensive controller. Yeah, you might want to spring for that service plan again.
Yeah, and I've talked about it here before, but I do with the PS4 ones. I've probably gone through like 9 or 10 of these things.
Yikes,
that's crazy. Oh, why can't they just make a controller that works?
I don't know.
What's the deal with these controllers, Randy?
Who are these people? I don't know. I mean, my cell phone is in a case, of course. It's not like in a fancy case or an OtterBox or anything like that. It's just in like a $7 case from Amazon. And man, I have dropped it. I have kicked it. The dog has gotten to it. And it keeps on ticking, man. The phone runs fine despite being abused on the daily. And man, I can't get a Switch Lite that works for more than a week at a time.
Where do you buy a phone that has an analog stick on it? We'll see how long that thing holds up.
That might be the issue, yeah. Lots of moving parts. Man, did somebody make a phone with an analog stick? I would buy that.
There was that Sony one for a while. It was actually, I don't remember if it actually had sticks or if it just had a weird touchpad. But remember there was a whole phase where they were like, we're going to make a PlayStation phone and you can play PS1 games on it or something like that.
A game phone.
Game phone.
Game phone.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever got to that point.
Somebody made a game phone. Wasn't there a phone that had a dedicated video game library, the Nokia made?
That was it Nokia? Yeah. I would think being very generous calling those games. But yeah, there was an attempt. The
N-Gage,
right?
That's what it was called, the Nokia N-Gage, yeah.
It's been a while.
Jeez. That is a thing I've not thought about in a long time.
Yeah, for good reason, I think.
I'm gonna Google that extensively when I go to bed tonight.
Just settling in.
I want the
nightly
whole story
N-Gage Googling
of the rise and fall of the Nokia N-Gage.
I remember it was like I was in college back then, so it was like early 2000s, and I was in a GameStop or whatever, buying something else, and they had a little display unit on the counter, Nokia N-Gage. Well, I was in there buying something else, I was just like, so, you selling a lot of these things? And the guy was just like, nope. I was like, well,
not a one.
Kind of what I expected, and that was it.
And then it disappeared overnight, I'm sure.
Vanished. Yeah. Well,
we bring it up to current,
games, though.
Playing some current games, some recently released or yet to be released video games.
Or yet to be. Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah. You want to start with Outriders? Did you play the Outriders demo?
I played a little bit. Actually, no, I played the whole thing.
Okay. I did as well. We didn't play it together, though.
No. Despite our best efforts.
Yep. It supports cross-platform play with your friends, as long as you're actually playing the $60 version of the game, not the free demo. So DJ and I had plans to play together, but thwarted by technology.
Right.
Yep.
Which very easily could have been prevented, because I could have just downloaded this on PS4 or whatever.
Yeah.
But knowing that they had this crossplay thing in the works, I was like, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to play it on Steam. And
crossplay the hell out of it.
I double-checked beforehand, just to make sure, because I was skeptical whether the demo would actually do this. Rightfully so, apparently. But no, just a bunch of just misinformed video game sites out there saying, oh yeah, you can crossplay in the demo, don't worry about it. Which turned out to be flagrantly false.
Yep.
So that was irritating.
it still had the little button for it in the menu. It was just deactivated in the demo. You couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I played it solo, and I presume you played it solo as well.
Right.
Yeah. This was not really on my radar. I gotta be honest. Outriders was not a thing that I was, can't wait for that to come out. But we had a member of the community, Green Captain, who seems to know my gaming taste pretty well, recommend it to me because he thought it had a lot of echoes of Gears of War, which he knows I'm a fan of. So he recommended I play it. Yeah, it does have a lot of echoes of Gears of War. It is, but I mean, you could say that of nearly any cover-based shooter, right? I mean, that's sort of where that thread goes back to.
Sure. But, I mean, it depends on how broadly you're, like summarizing up Gears of War.
Yeah. But the developer here is People Can Fly, and they've actually made a Gears of War game. They made Gears of War Judgment. So there is a little bit of Gears of War in there. But yeah, it definitely is one of the the modern kind of, what do they call them? Shooter looters, the online perpetual world kind of video game shooters. If you think of games like Division or Destiny.
Right. If Destiny wasn't third person enough for you, you can play this instead.
And yeah, I don't know. It felt like I don't know, the combination of like 5 or 6 other games that I liked more.
Oh, that you like. So that's great. So you
yeah,
loved it.
yes, it was very much sort of a a bouillabaisse of influences. It felt like Gears of War. It felt like The Division. It felt like a little bit of Halo. It felt like that Mad Max game, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, it definitely sort of pulled from other games that have done this exact thing to some degree or another in the past. So yeah, not the most unique thing in the universe, but pretty satisfying. It was kind of fun, I thought.
It was kind of a video game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, this is the type of game that I am just irritated by when I play it. Because I don't know. It just felt like every cover shooter, like you're saying, that I played on the Xbox 360 and PS3, like in 2009, when that was the, everybody was making that kind of game.
That was the dominant genre, yeah.
Yeah, I just can't believe that people are still making this exact same game. And I'm not even talking about like the shooting necessarily, but just the tone of the writing throughout was like, this is like a thing that feels like it only exists in video games to me. Like, when was the last time you saw a movie or, I don't know, watched a TV show and everybody acted or was written like a character in this video game? Just that the weird balance of like, just kind of like angry and just a very edgy, very agitated at everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That feels like it's just a video game thing. Why is that? Is that what people want?
Well, I think that goes back to my observation about Later Alligator last week, is that like timing and tone are so important in sort of conveying anything in movies and TV shows and video games, and I think video games fail at it all the time. Like, yes, you're right. Nearly every character in this seems hostile for no apparent reason, despite this sort of the splash screen at the beginning saying this is the beginning of the game. This is you starting from the beginning. You can play for a couple hours, up to level 7, up to the first 3 main missions and a couple of side missions. So it was a pretty substantial chunk of the thing. Yet I still felt lost. I still felt like I didn't understand why characters were angry at me. Like, it had that thing that Death Stranding does, where it keeps using sort of proper nouns with no context.
Right.
So it kept referencing things that I didn't understand. People were angry that you were liked you because you were an Outrider, and then later didn't like you because you were an Outrider. And I'm like, I still don't know what an Outrider is. I have no understanding of what that word means. Yeah, and so it was bizarre, and Yeah, I agree. Running around and shooting things was fun. Finding a cool gun and shooting at an enemy. This game had a lot of really sort of satisfying kind of sniper moments. I don't generally play sniper in video games a lot, but they gave me a sniper rifle early in the game, and I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot. And it was good. I had a lot of fun with it. It was super speedy. I generally feel like sniper is always super slow, and in Outriders it was zippy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that really jumped out at me for some reason because like when I picked a class, because they make you do that very early on,
with minimal context.
Yes, probably not enough information to really make a satisfying decision, but just a demo, so whatever.
Yeah, but it makes sure it tells you cannot change this later.
Yes, yeah. So terrifying, but you have to make a choice to continue the demo, so better do it. I like to, especially if it's a demo, I just like to pick something that is so far outside my comfort zone just to mix it up, see what I'm missing out on. So I picked the this close range trickster class, which sounded like it was going to be very using all these abilities to like warp around and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it was fine, but then I spent most of the game just using the sniper rifle. I feel like it was maybe too good. Because the whole class, the whole basis behind the class I picked was like you need to get in close and like stab people in the back, and you finish them off at close range, and it powers you up. And
yet you were sniping from a distance. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, well, I'll just wait for them to poke their head up from 200 or 300 feet away, and then just take them out with this rifle. Felt like I was missing the point a little bit.
I did Pyromancer, was that one of them? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
And your little suite of magical abilities, and I guess that's sort of the hook of Outriders, is that in this fiction, a percentage of the population has been altered in some way, and you have elemental powers. So yes, you have just what is the thing from Borderlands, 9 billion guns, but you also have sort of a left-hand ability that is, in my case, it was sort of things involving fire. So I could do what the L1 power was. I could send like a shockwave of fire up the battlefield. So if you had somebody who would not get out of cover, was kind of glued behind their little outcropping, you could kind of burn them out, and they would come running out on flames, and then you could take them out. And that was kind of satisfying, kind of fun. And yeah, you got 2, I think, other powers over the course of the demo, and then I found a menu where there were like 20 of them that you could swap in and out at any time. So it feels like it sort of continues to push that elemental power thing.
I don't know if I found that menu. I found there was like a big skill tree.
Yes, I found that as well.
Didn't have any skill points to put into it, so I kind of just ignored it. And I
got 1 during the demo.
Yeah, I got 1 the whole time, so I
could increase my health by 10%, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Those first 3 or 4 rungs on the skill tree is never very interesting, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. You're always sort of going for the most basic advancements.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just a demo. It's hard to get a feel for the full game, but I don't know. I felt like I mostly I had a pretty good grasp on how the combat was going to work. Like, you have your little abilities. You got your ducking behind half walls, all that stuff. Yeah. Like I said, it just felt like Destiny to me, but, in third person. And I know that that's sometimes a big deal for people.
Yeah, I prefer third over first, but particularly when cover is involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought what was the part of it that I was going to talk about? Oh, the you go through a weird kind of like environmental shift in the game. Yeah. The hook is that you're kind of the advanced team for a bunch of Earthlings who are trying to escape a dying planet, and you find this your spaceship full of survivors has found this planet where you're going to kind of terraform and bring the humans to live out their life in utopia. So you get waken up from cryosleep, that old yarn, about 6 months before everybody else, so you can kind of like help build society before they wake up the rest of the people, and then something crazy happens. But while you're there in the beginning, it's just this beautiful kind of mountainous, lots of trees, pristine, and then there's a time shift, and it takes that beautiful, lush, green forest setting and makes it the most sort of dark and dusty and oppressive and you're in like a barracks with a bunch of people who are begging you for food because they haven't eaten in weeks. And I'm like, it was so nice before. Why take a relatively unique setting for a video game like that? Like, hey, you're the first ones on this planet. Let's do some cool stuff. And then time shift it so that you end up kind of just in the most basic and boring and least imaginative, like a post-apocalyptic environment you can conjure for a video game.
Yeah, that seemed like they overdid it a little bit. And that goes back to my first impressions where I was just like, well, they made that Xbox 360 game again.
Yeah.
Because I thought I had the same reaction to the opening scene where I was like, "Oh, this doesn't look like what was on the the download screen or whatever." It's all this very idyllic landscape. Well, this could be kind of cool to explore around. And then you just wake up in this corridor and you're like in a truck driving through this hallway, and there are like bodies hanging from the ceiling,
dead bodies hanging from the trees.
Oh my god, guys! Like tone it down a little, maybe. And this is supposed to be one of those games where you just, this is like your life now, and you spend hundreds of hours playing this game. This is not where I would want to hang out if this was just going to be my thing. Like, maybe that's where some people want to hang out, but no, thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Oh.
So, yeah, Outriders is definitely based on this experience with this demo. And the game comes out this week. It'll be out by the time this episode comes out. Yeah, kind of a mixed bag. If you are desperate for a new looter shooter for you and your friends to hang out in and pop bad guys, then maybe this. It is also going to be on Game Pass from day one. So if you have a Game Pass subscription, that might be the best way to experience this thing without having to plop down $60 plus, DLC, I'm sure. But I don't know. maybe you could do better. The Division 2 is a fine game. I would recommend that. I think that satisfies this itch pretty well. If you've not played Division 2, maybe seek that out.
I would probably play the Division before I played this, and that game was also just incredibly bland.
It is, yeah. It kind of owns its blandness, though. I think Outriders sort of aspires to be something other. There are moments where the first character suddenly becomes, like, witty or, like, smart-assy or has, like, kind of punchy one-liners that he sort of pitches at other characters, and I'm like, where did that come from? That seems real tonally bizarre. It's just a weird, again, this bizarre kind of melting pot of things from other video games.
It did do one thing that I thought was very surprising and worth noting, and that is in the boss battle at the end of the demo. This is the first time you've fought really like a named boss that comes out, and you kind of have a one-on-one duel with him.
The lightning guy?
The lightning guy, yeah.
Yeah.
But what surprised me about it is during the battle, he just starts casting spells at you. And by that, I mean he's using these big abilities. But he kind of telegraphs it with the ability popping up over his head. And then just straight up MMO-style cast bar starts filling up as he's preparing this ability. It was like, oh, what's going on here? And I think the idea, other than just letting you know what is coming up, is that you have like one or two of your abilities you can use to interrupt whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
So I could see that coming into play, like if they do like more involved, like high-end stuff at the end of the game with more difficult bosses, having to put that into use. I thought that felt like, if you have a whole group of people and they all have their interrupt abilities or different ways to kind of direct this, like what this boss is doing, that could be very interesting. And I don't think I've seen that in a shooter or a game like this previously.
I don't think so either. In fact, when the game explained it to me, I was like, oh, that is a surprisingly sort of felt very RPG. Like you had to sort of identify your interrupt skill so that you could sort of deploy that while they're using their charge up. And then that of course has a cooldown and reset, so you can't use it again immediately. But again, I was thinking sort of, like you, if we had a team, we could sort of all take our turn to interrupt to make sure that, we were keeping this guy from using his kind of room clearing ability for as long as possible. So I thought it was an interesting little hitch in the flow of combat. Yeah,
that was easily the most promising thing to come out of this. And I don't think like that one boss battle really showcased what they could potentially do with it, but I I think that would be cool to see pop up in other games. It's a very interesting kind of addition.
There was another, it was attached to a side quest in the game, boss battle that I found. Maybe you didn't do, but it was...
did not do any side quests.
You didn't? Oh, okay, there you go. But it was a much more involved fight than that final one in the demo. And he had a bunch of little minions. So he had big dude casting like fire spells at you, and again had sort of the charge up with the tell and the bar that you could sort of identify, and you had to get up close enough to be able to hit your interrupt. But he also had sort of little minion guys that were coming out and trying to flank you, and so you were trying to sort of do your cover-based shooter thing, and you were trying to sort of play aggressive because this was a unique thing. Your ability to sort of refill your health required you to sort of more or less kill other people. There were no health pickups. You weren't picking up little health kits anywhere. You were essentially leeching health from other enemies, which again I thought was kind of an interesting push-pull to the combat. But yeah, there were a lot more kind of intricate pieces to that encounter, and being able to kind of pick off the little dudes who were flanking you while also keeping an eye on the big bad and making sure he didn't deploy his giant fireball tornado thing. Yeah.
I have to confess, I didn't play Destiny long enough to make it to the endgame stuff, so this very well could happen. Like, bosses could be just casting spells at you the whole time. If they do, then that is great. Then it makes sense that they would just import it wholesale from that game into this, because that's kind of the big, like, looter shooter.
Yeah.
People compare this to, but this was the first time I ran into it, and it feels like such a like Final Fantasy thing. I was very excited.
I thought it handled difficulty well too. Did you dig into that at all?
Yeah, I like that. It kind of lets you. I couldn't tell how it was adjusting this, but basically you can determine what difficulty you want to play it on, and it will tell you how like enemies and rewards are scaling based on whatever you've selected.
Right. There's an element of this in Division as well, which I like in Division too. So you can have the world difficulty sort of continue to rise as your character's level rises, or if you feel like you sort of reach a ceiling like I did during the course of the demo, and everybody's a little too aggressive, or if you're playing solo like I was playing, and wanted to last more than 30 seconds in every boss encounter, you can go into the menu on the fly and sort of reduce that world tier, is what they call it, back a step or two. And like you said, it does tell you pretty up close that, okay, enemy difficulty goes down by about 10%. The likelihood of you getting, a good reward or a rare reward in a chest goes down 10% when you make this adjustment as well. So again, I thought it was pretty smart about giving you control over how difficult you wanted the experience to be, and understanding what kind of the trade-off for that change is going to be.
Yeah, that was nice. Kind of reminded me of what they do in Diablo 3. But I've also not really seen that sort of mechanic in a lot of games, so that was cool. Probably not going to play it, but I'm really curious. I really like the boss battle. I hope they develop that into something cool.
Yeah, those were certainly the most fun I had. It's too bad you didn't get to that side quest one, but because that one was better, I thought. But yeah, those were the most fun encounters in it. The rest of it just felt like a battle arenas. Like you would walk in a room, the door would slam shut behind you, and monster doors would open in the in the wings, and a bunch of guys would roll out. And it even had sort of the little chime noise that you get in Gears of War when you clear the last enemy, and it goes ding, and okay, I've wiped out everybody, now I can go around and pick up ammo and stuff like that. That happens in Outriders as well. So yeah, it very much felt like little hallways, little corridors, little arenas that it was sort of setting up for you on your long walk to the next objective on your map.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a bit of a mixed bag. I don't know. I don't know how much sort of creativity or ingenuity is going into developing these things at this point. They're clearly just products designed to kind of keep you coming back and keep you attached to this game forever.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be easier. Like, I probably would have, paid more attention to it if I knew it was not just aiming to be the next Destiny, or if it was something that I could just go through and, play a discrete campaign, maybe even co-op if I felt like it. But I just do not see myself getting into one of these just endless games at this point.
Yeah, and I felt like this would be, I don't know, the fun of this would be enhanced pretty greatly by co-oping with friends. That, the Borderlands games and Division don't necessarily appeal to me as solo experiences, but you get a couple of friends in there and roll through and shoot up some bad guys or cast fireballs together. I think that sounds like a good time. I would do that. And that gives you sort of the luxury of being able to ignore most of the secondary nonsense.
Yeah.
So yeah, Outriders. What else?
Do you want me to start just talking about Valheim every week instead of Final Fantasy? Is that something I should do?
Is that your new obsession? Have you completely forsaken Final Fantasy now?
Well, no, I was going to suggest that, but actually it's a Final Fantasy week because I cleared the next floor in the raid series that I talked about a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, I cleared the floor after it.
Ooh.
So I'm making some progress.
Damn.
And sort of counter to what I was saying previously, where every group I would join would just be a complete disaster. And they would say, hey, we're working on the last phase of this floor. And really would turn out that nobody had actually cleared the first phase. The group that I got when I cleared the third floor, it was like, hey, we're practicing the last thing. Just join up. If you also need to practice the last thing, maybe we can clear this if everybody's good enough. Just immediately, the first try, got all the way to the end. No mistakes leading up to it. Of course, died at that point, so we ran it a few more times. But just every single time, got all the way there. I was so impressed. I was just like, where has this group been the whole time? And then we eventually cleared it. And it was amazing. And then just keeping in spirit with my, my insistence on not forming a static group to do these things with, I immediately destroyed all of their contact information. So I don't know who any of those guys were.
That's a good policy, DJ.
Yeah. But it was really good. And what I have learned from just progressing through these additional floors is that first of all, the fights get way more fun as you go, the progressively more difficult fights. But also they kind of get easier. I don't know if it's just like the way this tier was designed, but the later fights, I don't know. I had a much easier time just learning them and dealing with them, and maybe as a result, it was more fun. Like, I was looking forward to joining up with these. Maybe
you just sort of got into your mojo at that point.
Maybe I was just in the groove. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of get it now. Before, it was like, oh, I need to drag myself through this initial floor, and these garbage parties just are sabotaging everybody else as we try and learn it. And now I'm at the point where like, oh, this is actually good. I guess this is why people do this for hours on end every week. But now I'm on the final floor.
Oh.
And this is farther than I've ever been in this game. I've never been on the final raid floor while it's current. And I'm just having a lot of difficulty. I'm trying to keep up the momentum so I can clear this thing. But it's tough because I've got Valheim and Monster Hunter going on. And I just spent like the last week watching a bunch of strategy videos and then thinking, oh, there's a lot to process about these fights before I feel comfortable joining a group. Maybe I'll just watch these videos again. Well, maybe I'll just log into Valheim and chop some wood for an hour. I don't know.
That sounds like better use of your time, I think, than constantly throwing yourself at the mercy of the randos that you party up with.
It's tough. It definitely goes in phases. Like, at the beginning of learning a floor, I'm just like, sure, everybody's new. We're going to die a lot. But then, once I kind of figure out how it works and get farther along, I just kind of expect everybody else to also be on the same page. And that doesn't turn out to be the case always. So,
and do you have the ability to start at the last floor that you unlocked, or do you have to run the previous floors before you can get there every time?
Well, that's a complicated question. Yes, you can go to the last floor previously, but the thing is, so every week you have a chance to earn like loot from these floors. And so the idea is every week you have to just go back and re-clear them. And the catch is you can go directly to the most difficult floor to just practice it or whatever, but if you do that, you forfeit any loot that you have not claimed from the previous floors.
Oh.
So it turns out every week there's the whole process again of just like well, I gotta clear those other floors so I can get the loot, and then I can practice.
Here we go again.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm just caught in an infinite loop of throwing myself at these parties.
Huh. That's how they get you.
But it is super fun. I've been into a couple learning parties for this last floor over the last this last weekend, and we died a lot, but it's all starting to like crystallize. I kind of understand how the fight works at this point.
Excellent. Well, cool. Congratulations on this exciting milestone.
Thank you. But like I said, Monster Hunter is here, and it is God. So between this and Valheim, and everything else going on, I'm just overloaded. I don't know how I'm even existing at this point. Monster Hunter is really good, though. I can say that about it.
Excellent. There seems to be a lot of enthusiasm in our Discord. I think everybody who's gotten their hands on it seems very excited about it. And the internet in general, Twitter, again, seems very enthusiastic about it. Lots of people talking about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not playing it. So from a sort of a long distance perspective on this, it seems like it's a hit. It seems like people are sort of really sort of pleased with it.
It's really good. And I want to get the negativity out of the way, because I'm really enjoying it. But I realize just the opening hours of every single Monster Hunter game are terrible. Like, it doesn't matter if you're new to the game, it doesn't matter if you've played thousands of hours of these things. It's rough. And you experienced this a little bit when you played the demo a couple months ago.
Absolutely.
I mean, I imagine there was a lot more going on for you because you haven't played one of these before, but...
Zero context, right? Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was my perspective on that, is that this does not feel welcoming to newbies.
No. No, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of just how they can bring people into the game and teach people how it works. Because, like, I understand how Monster Hunter works. I don't necessarily understand everything that this new game is throwing at people, but I understand like 90% of it. But
it's throwing some new stuff at you, too. It's not like it's sort of just rehashing the old stuff over and over again.
Right, there are always a few little new wrinkles in it that you have to figure out. But they just throw so many tutorial pop-ups at you when you start this game. It's ridiculous. Like, the very first thing, they're just like, okay, go over and talk to this NPC. Use the left stick to move your character, in case you've never played a video game before.
You just stepped out of the nuclear bunker. Yeah.
Yes, they just brought you out of cryo. I just thought, well, that seems like it's overkill a little bit. I acknowledge that maybe some people have not played a video game before. Monster Hunter Rise seems like a questionable place to start, but sure, it's important that you know what the left analog stick does. And then there are just so many, you spend so many of the initial quests like fighting monsters that have been in previous games. You have to do quests where you just go out and gather plants. Nobody likes those. So I really want there to be an option that's like, hey, I've played a Monster Hunter game before. Give me like the fast pass to the good stuff. Tell me about the new stuff at some point, but I don't need to know like how the camera works, for instance. So once that was out of the way, though, it's really good. Like, once I started getting into the new monsters, once I started learning how the new mechanics work, it's very good. One of the most striking things about this one is that you probably noticed this in the demo, but it is like very heavily like Japanese themed this time. It's kind of like ancient Japan. They've done this with previous games where like the home village would be in this kind of misty mountaintop with a lot of bamboo around, which that was cool. It's like, sure, throw a little Japanese mountain village in there. That's exciting.
Yeah.
But with this one, they've really gone all out to the point where, I mean, you've got the Japanese mountain village and the cherry blossom trees, of course, but all of the like load screens and the monster art are done in that like kind of watercolor style painting. Every time you load a new area or fight a new monster, it plays like this video clip that sounds like one of those old Japanese operas with the kind of weird moany singing, kind of like how Yakuza 7 started. They were doing that little opera at the start.
Right, yes. Oh man, that was so long ago in Yakuza. I forgot that that's how that game starts. Yeah.
Right, I mean, that was probably like 70 hours ago.
It was.
But there's like this little intro for all of these things. And like in previous Monster Hunter games, they would just show kind of, the monster walking around, and then it would do like the big action pose for the camera because it's about to attack you. But they have never done it in such a way where these just felt like tiny films of the monster, or like an introduction to each area. Each one has like a little poem that goes along with it. They really just went all out. I'm so impressed. I have no idea where this came from. So that's exciting. Monster Hunter has always had kind of a unique aesthetic that has carried across to just sort of the world design and the weapon design and everything. But I don't think they've ever done one where it's just like, okay, well, this is kind of the Japanese expansion of Monster Hunter. So it's very interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I get the flavor of that, I think, a little bit in that demo. Was that demo part of the game, or does it sort of exist as its own sort of separate thing?
It's kind of separate, where they just set you up with a random hunter and like equipment layout, and then you fight 2 or 3 monsters that are in the final game.
Okay.
There's not really like a continuous...
But it's not like the Outriders demo where it's like the first 45 minutes of the game.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely not the first, like the opening quests of Monster Hunter. Right. Monster Hunter Rise.
Okay.
So where else to go with this? So it's interesting playing this after Monster Hunter World, because it is, in a way, it feels like a lot of the... it's definitely a follow-up to World, but it also kind of brings the series back to sort of the nebulous pre-Monster Hunter World games. There's been a lot of discussion about, like, Monster Hunter World changed the formula so much. It made so many additions and, like, modifications to how things work. There was kind of a divide where, like, oh yeah, a lot of people like Monster Hunter World, but there are also these people who like prefer things about the previous games.
And Monster Hunter World was such a big kind of upon impact that I was thinking that was probably a lot of gamers' first experience with a Monster Hunter game. That sort of sets the expectation for this is what a Monster Hunter game plays like.
Yeah. So it's interesting, thinking of this as a lot of people's second experience with a Monster Hunter game.
Yeah. And it doesn't function like Rise, right? I mean, Rise was one of the sort of games as service, right? It was a kind of perpetual online thing. Yeah. World, sorry, yes, yeah.
So yeah, they obviously can't get too far away from how World works, but it feels like they made an effort to take it back towards like working more like the previous Monster Hunter games. And to me, that just means, I don't know, like the world in Monster Hunter World was so different. Like all the maps were so differently designed than the last Monster Hunter games. It was really like they set out to create this incredibly lush and realistic environment for you to then fight these very like HD looking monsters, like the most realistic monsters that have been in the series up to this point. And visually it was incredible. But I felt like in a lot of cases the gameplay took a step back just because like everything's so good, it's kind of hard to tell like where you can go on the map and just find your way around. Right. And because the camera was just pulled up so close to these monsters all the time, they kind of were difficult to fight. But in this one, the environment design seems much closer to older Monster Hunter games, but with sort of the same like aesthetic sensibilities of World. So you have these huge environments again, so basically just big, wide open arenas to fight the monsters in. Like the camera feels like pulled back a little bit farther. It just feels much easier to just deal with. You don't have to fight the camera all the time. You can clearly see where you're supposed to go and what the monster is doing. Cool. It's really good. But, despite the fact that it's not on like a PS4 or Xbox or PC or whatever, it's just running on, poor little old Switch, it still looks really good. I mean, the last game I played on the Switch, or the last Monster Hunter game I played on the Switch, was more or less a like port of a 3DS game.
Oh, right.
So you can imagine, it didn't look great. I mean, it looked fine. I'm not a huge stickler when it comes to graphics. But seeing this in action, it's weird to look at because, it definitely looks better than the previous Switch Monster Hunter. It doesn't look as good as Monster Hunter World, obviously, but it looks really good. So that's weird because I just expect it to kind of still look like a PS2 game. But like the art is still really good, and they've scaled it back from World in a way where like it it runs pretty well. It's still you're not really struggling with the hardware to fight these monsters most of the time.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I know you've spent just bajillion hours on previous versions of Monster Hunter games, so there must be an expectation, I think, that your brain and eyes have when you boot up a new Monster Hunter game. So I think anything that sort of seems like a deviation from what was the one that you spent the most time with, like the PSP one, right? You just had hundreds of hours with, yeah. Anything that looks different or better has got to be jarring.
Yeah. Like, it was weird the first few hours of playing Monster Hunter World and seeing those same monsters suddenly, like, looking very realistic. It's like, oh, this kind of looks too good. It's like better than I need Monster Hunter to look, but we're here now, so sure.
That's funny. So
it's very nice that, like, clearly this was a Monster Hunter designed to be on the Switch. It's not like they had to downport Monster Hunter World to run on the Switch. Which I'm really glad they didn't do, but it's nice when you have this version kind of designed with the hardware in mind. It works really well.
Yeah, well, that was one of my sort of thoughts on this, again, just sort of being a casual long distance observer, is why not just take World and find a way to put it on the Switch. Particularly since, again, a game like World seems so sort of engineered to be this perpetual experience. Why not just sort of rope one more console into that experience?
Right.
So when it was announced that they were sort of making a separate game kind of ground up for the Switch, I don't know, it was just a surprising move, I thought.
Yeah. It seems like it's not really pursuing the same, like, always online model as Monster Hunter World either, which again is more like the previous ones. You can kind of switch between, like, an online mode and an offline mode while you're playing, which is good because I can, like I mentioned in the story of the demo, I can just pause the game if I need to take a break or something. And I'm, Monster Hunter World was always online, so you couldn't ever pause it. You just had to devote yourself to, I'm going to be committing to fighting this monster for the next 40 minutes. Hope nothing happens between now and then.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. So it's good. I can, like, put the Switch to sleep. I can, like, take it into the other room, like, pick it up where I left off. It's really, like, that's how the Switch is supposed to work. So I'm glad they figured it out with this one.
Cool. And does Rise support multiplayer, though? If you want to consume it with friends and co-op and stuff like that, is that all there? Yeah. Yeah,
it works very similarly to the what am I saying? The multiplayer in previous games?
Multi-Hunter works
too, yeah. They should, get a copyright on that or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Where you go to like an online lobby and a few other people file in, and then you, like, put up a quest and you all go and do the quest. Very familiar, right. And it works well.
Use left stick to move.
Yes, as soon as you figure out how to physically move to the hunting lodge. No, it's a challenge for people. God, I can't believe that was in the game. So that brings me to sort of like more new stuff, just the kind of the big new features other than this interesting Asian setting. And one of those is the wirebug, which it was in the demo, but essentially they have removed sort of the grappling hook from Monster Hunter World, and now you have this thing called the wirebug, which does similar things. You can kind of use it to, like, grapple onto cliffs, and a super fun thing to do with it is, like, if you get knocked down by a monster, you can use the wirebug to just fling yourself way over to the side so you don't get hit with a follow-up attack or anything. Which, let me tell you, that is very important for Monster Hunter. Previously, if you got knocked down, it was kind of like, oh man, I hope I can get myself back up on my feet in time, because who knows what this monster is going to do. But that's extremely useful. I find myself using that a lot.
But if I remember correctly from the demo, they're kind of single use, right? You have to have one in your inventory to be able to deploy it, so you've got to pick them up as you go.
Yes, it's kind of like a thing that automatically refreshes based on whatever you just used it to do. So you start out with a couple of these, and every time you use a wirebug action, it consumes one that then takes, I don't know, like 10 or 15 seconds to recharge. But what I found myself really enjoying, and this is something I didn't really get into the demo, or during the demo, because I was just trying to figure out everything else that they added to the game.
Just trying to keep me alive.
Yeah, well, that's right. You can use this to perform special attacks with your weapon, which
Oh.
was kind of a new thing that this Monster Hunter team did with their previous game, which was Monster Hunter Generations. You suddenly had like these super moves that would charge up, and when the meter was full, you could execute this move, and then you have to charge up the meter again. But now you just use the wirebug. So whenever you do one of these super moves, like the wirebug takes much longer to recharge, but as a trade-off, you got one of these incredibly powerful moves. So it's kind of an interesting balance, like, oh, I could be using this to like get myself out of a sticky situation by evading to the side or like doing a vault over the monster, but I kind of want it to be, to spend them all on these special moves. So just an interesting thing to consider during these fights.
Oh, cool.
And that kind of rolls into the other thing, which is new in this, is monster riding, which replaces like the monster mounting system from previous games. Previously, you would like jump on a monster's back if it was wounded, and you could just do this little rodeo mini game. I didn't think it was especially interesting, so I didn't really go out of my way to do it in previous games. But in this one, they've changed it so kind of weaken the monster a little bit. You jump onto their back, kind of like you extend reins around them using the wirebug, and then you just kind of steer it around for a while. And how I imagine this working was usually like in the demo, a second monster would show up while you're fighting the target monster that you're there to defeat.
Gotcha.
So you would use this monster riding thing to lasso the second monster and then just fight the target monster with it. And I was like, this is kind of silly. I don't know how much time I want to spend in this game like playing as a monster, because I like the on foot like weapon-based gameplay that has been in the Monster Hunter series since the beginning. I didn't really feel like it was missing the being able to play as a monster. It seems like the execution is a little different than I was expecting, though, because it more or less boils down to like you lasso this monster, you hit the other monster with a few attacks, and then like you do a big finisher, and then you just get off the monster and go back to fighting. But then I realized that after you dismount the monster, it refills all your wirebugs. So I have just been like riding into battle, do all my wirebug special attacks, then I wait for that moment where I can do the monster riding thing. I go through that whole thing, and then I suddenly have like this whole new set of wirebug attacks ready to go, and that's very exciting.
Oh, excellent.
So that's a big surprise. I really wasn't expecting to be using the wirebug that much, because I didn't use the grapple claw that much in World, and the Monster Hunter thing, or the Monster Rider thing, was kind of something I was just hoping I could overlook and just focus on hitting them with my sword more. But it's actually kind of a fun thing. It breaks up the combat a little bit, and it's just kind of a silly diversion to
it sounds like you've
typical Monster Hunter gameplay.
Kind of stumbled upon a fun way to kind of chain all those things together for a brief period of kind of maximum damage.
Yeah.
Oh, I kept doing the monster riding thing accidentally when we played the demo. I kept some magical combination of button presses. I would find myself turned into the monster we were trying to kill, and I was like, wait, this is not what I wanted to do. How do I make it stop? Yeah.
There are things you can do to make a monster more susceptible to being able to ride it. And I find myself, I still don't really focus on that, but whenever, inevitably it just happens. They're like, oh, now it's time. You can just jump on the monster's back and do the monster rider thing. And during the demo, I was like, well, do I have to? But now I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go.
Let's do it.
But after that, again, I don't really seek it out. It just, whenever it pops up, I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it, and then
Gotcha.
I'll get back to what I was doing before.
Cool.
The last kind of wrinkle to that, which I think is hilarious, is sometimes you would mount the monster that you were there to fight, and when this happened during the demo, I got very confused, because I just thought, well, okay, so I'm now controlling this thing. I'm supposed to kill it. Did I just win? Is that it? What do I do? Can I just tell it to go home or whatever? So I was very confused.
Back to your home.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do during the demo. I would just find myself fighting the other monster that showed up, which seemed not productive because I don't really need to kill the other monster. But what I realized you can do in this, I think this is what you're supposed to do, is one of the things you can do when you're riding a monster is have it just charge at the other monster. But in this case, you can just have it charged right into a wall and just like smash its face into it, which does a ton of damage to it. And then you just use the wirebug to grapple back onto it, and you could do this like 2 or 3 times in a row, which is it's just kind of ridiculous because it's like, okay, I've got you now. I'm just going to ride you into the wall 3 or 4 times.
Oh man, it's suddenly every Mario boss battle ever where you basically have to wait for them to do their charge move, and you jump out of the way and they hit the wall and little birds fly around their head and you take your shot then.
Yeah, exactly. I just want my hunter to just be like, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Be an amazing call out.
Excellent.
So there's a lot of new stuff. It's actually, I'm finding myself liking it much more than like sort of the new introductions in Monster Hunter World, which is a big surprise. Honestly, whenever one of these games comes out at this point, I just kind of think, oh, it's another Monster Hunter. It's just time to go through the same motions again. But
let's see what they broke. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not quite that pessimistic. But like, I've played so much Monster Hunter at this point, I know how they work generally. But I find myself like really enjoying all the new stuff. Especially a lot of the new monsters are super fun and have very clever designs, and it's exciting to see what pops up next.
Cool. Well, good. That's always exciting when something you're looking forward to comes out and actually turns to be good.
Yeah. I just wish it wasn't detracting from all of my Final Fantasy and Valheim time, because I've got stuff to do elsewhere, but now I have to fight all these monsters.
Logs are not going to saw themselves or whatever you're doing in Valheim.
Oh, yeah. We just built a boat, and it's been a complete nightmare. But I won't get into it.
Excellent. So you're on board with Monster Hunter Rise. You're going to stick with this thing.
Oh, yeah. I hope so. I'm curious to see where it goes, because I don't know if it's going to be quite the sort of live service thing as Monster Hunter World was. They have announced already that they just have a bunch of new updates planned. I think we talked about that a little bit last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's going to be more to it in the future, but you have to kind of get through the base stuff to begin with.
Cool. Well, that's fun. Good.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad. It feels like, I don't know, like right out of the gate, I'm enjoying this so much more than Monster Hunter World. I think it's because maybe Monster Hunter World just warmed me up to all of the the huge changes they were making to the series, and now this feels like more of a refinement. They've gotten the changes out of the way, and they can just focus on adding in crazy new monsters and mechanics.
I get sort of a bit of a reset.
Yeah.
Cool. I do remember you, being a little, antsy about about it sort of not sort of syncing up with expectations. World, I mean. Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of questions swirling around just how exactly that game was going to work. But I feel like, sort of the 1.0 or like relaunch of any series was a little rough. But then by the time the second one comes out, it's like, we've had some time to figure out what was working, what sort of needed some improvements. And I think Monster Hunter Rise is evidence that we were really paying attention. They ironed out a lot of stuff. And this one seems like it's very good so far.
Cool. And you get into any of these sort of long-running series, the devs are always, I think, looking for some way to kind of mix it up, some things they can kind of add or hopefully sort of adjust quality of life kind of changes and stuff like that. And yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Or sometimes I think as a gamer hive mind, we just want it to be the thing that we love and not be kind of fudged with. So the fact that they can kind of continue to tinker and you still find kind of fun stuff in that is surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit that I have that problem with a lot of series. I'm just like, don't change the stuff that I like. Like, don't add anything in that's new. Just let me play that old game again for 1,000 hours.
Change the things I hate. Don't touch anything I love.
Yes, yeah. So it's a real achievement that they've managed to cram in all of this new stuff. And I'm like, this is actually really good. I'm glad that they did this. Now
can I get more storage for all of my things?
Yeah, right. Oh, man. Oh, what
Excellent.
am I going to do? There's too many video games.
You're gonna have to push pause on something.
Well, I can't do it. Who's going to chop down all those trees?
All right. Well, we should wrap this thing up so you can get back to your Monster Hunter tree chopping and floor grinding, I guess.
I don't even know what to do, because at any point I'm just like, well, I should be doing one of these 3 things, but that'll just keep me from doing the other things. And none of which are actually important. They're just things that I use to waste time. But for some reason, it feels like I should be prioritizing them over the other points. I don't know.
I don't have a horse in this race. I can't help with that at all.
Yeah, I mean, at least I'm not going to be distracted by Outriders, I suppose.
Right. You come play Animal Crossing with me, DJ. Just forsake all other things and hang out in Animal Crossing with me.
Did the Mario stuff go away? I was like logging in just to get the Mario stuff.
Oh, no, they say the Mario stuff is forever. That it's
is
not
it really? That's good.
Yeah, it's not timed. It will always be in your shop, yeah.
Okay, because you heard Mario died this week, right?
I heard that, yes. Yeah.
Yes, so, I mean, it's very sad, but it had
so now
to be done.
It's just a memorial, really.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a relief.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't want to log in because they've got the eggs now. I don't need that.
Yeah. You might want to wait till the day after Easter for that.
Yeah. Do they have the cherry trees again, though? Because that was, I missed all that last year.
Yeah, I believe that happened simultaneously as Bunny Day. So, which was why it was super frustrating last year, is we all wanted the cherry blossom stuff and didn't want any of the Bunny Day stuff, and
yeah,
you could not escape the Bunny Day stuff.
But it was just eggs,
just everywhere eggs.
Yeah. Can I say I forgot to say this one thing about Monster Hunter Rise,
sure.
And then we can end the show. But this was something that I thought was delightful. In every Monster Hunter game up to this point, before you go on a quest, you stop by the cafeteria and you custom create a meal which boosts like different attributes that you then take with you on the quest.
Cool.
And it's been super fun. Like, you've probably seen people posting their photos of like, hey, I made this Monster Hunter meal at home. Like, I cooked this crazy thing. And it's always an assortment of just like these outlandish looking like kebabs or whatever. Because in all these games, you have all these different ingredients that you would combine and come up with whatever like platter made sense. Mm-hmm. In this one, they have gotten rid of all of that, and because it kind of takes place in this like Japanese festival village, you just have like a dango stand, which I don't know if you know what a dango is, but they're like those mochi skewers.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm guessing you've seen like the 3 balls of mochi on a stick. I'm sure they must have been in that Animal Crossing like cherry blossom set somewhere.
Or in Breath of the Wild. That's usually
or in Breath of the Wild. Yeah. They had there was like a little stand where they had them grilling over charcoal or whatever.
Oh.
But so you don't have the cafeteria anymore. You go to this mochi cafe, and you select there's like a screen with like 20 different mochi balls of different colors and patterns. Based on what attributes you want to boost during that quest. So you pick out 3, and then there's this whole cutscene that plays where the owner of the mochi shop, and then of course her cat assistants, because that's just something that happens in Monster Hunter, they take specifically the 3 like mochi balls that you picked out, and the cats will juggle them, and the girl will like throw skewers through them like a ninja, because it's all like ninja and samurai in this game,
right?
And they'll like sing a little song, and at the end they just serve you like your custom mochi, and then you eat it, and it's ridiculous. But I couldn't believe that just first of all they threw out everything else. They went all in on mochi for this. But then you have this delightful cutscene. It was kind of blew my mind a little bit.
This is a positive change, you think?
Yeah, no, this is great.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of mochi.
I was trying to figure out where you came down. This is very
exciting.
Yeah.
I'm surprised because I know a lot of people like those. Like, I love the huge like monster platter or whatever you used to order, and this time they're just like, no, it's all mochi 24/7.
Everybody eats mochi.
Yeah, but it's really good. It's super fun.
Nice. People love mochi.
I will. I'll find a clip of the little cutscene that plays when you order at the cafe, and I'll put it in the show notes because it's worth watching.
Cool. All right. Well, what a roller coaster of emotions this week.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. A lot of games.
To wrap this thing up, though, if you need any more video game hangover in your brain, definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And don't forget, you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love to have you join us on Discord if you're playing Monster Hunter, or if you're playing Animal Crossing, or any video game, really, and want to hang out with some like-minded folks and chat about games and other things. Definitely go to VGHangover.com for a link to the Discord, and then come hang out with us.
Yeah.
And what else? Subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah, tell them about all the good mochi content on this week's episode.
Quality mochi content. Yeah.
No, but seriously, tell your friends about the show. It really helps us get the word out. It's good, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of stuff we appreciate, big thanks again to Felly Kitty for our intro and outro music this week. We would encourage you to head on over to fellykitty.bandcamp.com. Check out more of her stuff.
Cool. Is this Friday Bandcamp Friday? I think it might be.
Is it? Oh, well then, while you're there, you should just add all of her albums to your cart.
Yeah.
Maybe poke around Bandcamp a little bit, add some more albums in there, and send them a few bucks.
Just load up on music.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we will be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.